You may have noticed something quite strange. Whenever Western politicians go to Bangladesh or India, they always talk about human rights issues. But they never do the same while in Saudi Arabia. The dictatorial House of Saud is a strong ally of the West, but the democratic Iran couldn't be further from it. The previous king of Saudi Arabia allowed crucifixion. When he died, the British flag flew at half-mast as a tribute to him. Politicians never actually tell us why Saudi Arabia is afforded such status, so I thought I'd share the reason for it with you. It seems like the most stable political system in the Middle East, but the future of Saudi Arabia relies on the success or failure of the American economy. Saudi Arabia is an incredibly wealthy nation, and it's all thanks to oil. They are the biggest producer of it. As part of a deal, Saudi Arabia priced their oil in US dollars. That might seem like a minor detail, but it's a really big deal. It means that most people wanting to buy Saudi oil will need to do so in American money. This keeps the US dollar highly valuable and usually stable. On the other side of the deal, America would secretly indebt themselves to Saudi Arabia and also give military protection to the Saudi government. That's where stability comes in. Without this deal, the Saudis would receive no protection and their government might collapse within the year. If America loses its economic dominance, Saudi oil could switch over to the Chinese yen or maybe even the Indian rupee. The deal, known as the petrodollar system, was struck when America was in a recession. They needed more people using the US dollar, and their plan worked. Saudi Arabia seemed untouched by the Arab Spring, but you have to remember, rebel groups in other countries were often supported by the West. Saudi Arabia is named after its royal family. It's the Arabian land ruled by the House of Saud. Ibn Saud conquered all local tribes, unified their land, and declared himself king. This was in 1932. This new country soon formed an alliance with America. The alliance was never just about oil. It was part of a grand scheme. The House of Saud were against socialism. There was a time when Egypt, Somalia, and South Yemen were all socialist nations. Saudi Arabia was seen as a counterweight to this. These days, communism isn't seen as a threat. Iran and Syria are both close allies of Russia. Through them, Vladimir Putin can have some influence in the Middle East. Once again, Saudi Arabia is seen as the counterweight to this. You should remember that Russia is still the main power rival to America. A while ago, the Ukrainian Prime Minister was making a deal with Russia. In response to this, American and German politicians arranged his overthrow. As a response to this, Russia annexed the Ukraine's Crimean territory. This shifted the game of power in Russia's favor. To shift it back, the West are now supporting rebel fighters in Syria. If those rebels overthrow the Syrian government, Vladimir Putin loses a powerful ally. Saudi Arabia is pretty close to both Iran and Syria. Iran and Syria are both close allies of Russia. With them, Vladimir Putin has some influence in the Middle East. Once again, Saudi Arabia is the counterweight to this. It makes it much easier to destabilize those countries if the Saudis are on your side. And Western governments do have a policy of deliberately destabilizing Russian allies. I'm not saying that's a good thing, it's just a fact. The House of Saud are major financiers of terror. It's got to the point where the German Vice-Chancellor has accused them of funding extremism, but the Germans still sell arms to Middle Eastern dictators all the time. In 2010, America announced a $60 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia. If this was where it ended, it wouldn't be so bad. But to anyone paying attention, it seems an ever-increasing amount of British and American foreign policy is made by the House of Saud. I'm not saying all foreign policy is made in Riyadh, just pointing out a worrying influence. People often think the Saudi monarchy is a puppet of the West, but it may be the other way around. If you agree or disagree with my analysis, tell me why in the comments, and feel free to subscribe.